Now listen, I need everybody to get ready and say it with me on three. One, two, three.
Now when it comes to Drake.
Well, now, if you are ready to see how after we were all confused and stuck trying to fathom this piece of garbage, well, everybody's least favorite cupcake Mega Karen Ice Spice Man had to make things about him again, and this time around, he has just announced his fourth series of concerts in 2025, and with what he is doing now back in his home city of Toronto, it is sadder and more desperate than ever, and it's all to spite one man and one man only in King Kendrick Lamar. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and now really, as Drake is still continuing to drag out any chance he can to try and hold on to get one win over Kendrick Lamar, and with what he is planning now, well, he is really trying to bring the pop-out but the generic at-home version to the 6. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, because today, well, this is going to be a good one. And honestly, it's always funny to me how pretty much whenever the spotlight starts to shift in rap and somebody else does something of note, whether that is for better or for what we just saw recently for worse, well, for the cupcake in the corner, like the King Karen Super Max Ice Spice Man that we have been witnessing the guy turn into and embrace more and more with each new move and appearance, Drake just has to try and run to the spotlight like he is this guy, and with what he has done here, well, after seeing Drake pretty much be forced by the horrible situation he put his own career in to be stuck on tours and doing shows that he clearly never wanted to do, well, as a result of this, we saw him complain, stage whatever stunts he can, cancel performances when he can, and do really one of the worst touring jobs we have ever seen with the near 40 shows he did this year across the Anita Max Win Tour, and then the even lamer Some Lame Shows for You tour. Well, after all of that, and we seemingly were finding out that Drake was in some sort of a touring nightmare, what we are seeing now is either showing that the deal he is in is gonna have him doing performances monthly at this point, or maybe there is no deal and this is just an excuse or a way he is trying to write off these lazy performances that he keeps giving, and he just has a constant need to keep running through all of the arenas in the entire world, despite how lackluster this really is. Because again, with Drake just ending a tour days ago and then him announcing more shows, but he has been crashing out and showing that he has no momentum or energy to even keep up with what he had already. I mean, this is just really confusing, and really for Drake, while he announced this show and they're trying to make this a big deal for all of OVO, all of the 6, and all of music, I guess, you may be shocked by this, but you're probably not. But I don't think that the guy thought this all through. And the reason why I say and stand by that is because while Kendrick Lamar headlines all of the stadiums he possibly can right now, and while his buddy Young Thug and his record Ooh I Scooty was getting humiliated, and we are just getting ready to see what Kendrick's next show is going to bring us and what he is going to do, because now he is moving through leg 3 of the Grand National Tour, and you know that every single night is going to bring us something great. Well, I guess to help out Loser Jeffrey and any of the backlash he was getting, I guess, but then also to compete with Kendrick and the run that he is continuing right now, Drake had to come out and announce something that I guess after all of the massive L's he has taken ever since the beef, and at that in every single place that you possibly could take an L in, well, what we are finding out is that there is one thing which Drake seemingly needs to do and has been waiting to try and pull off in the saddest and most desperate way. And well, what that is not Drake doing his next tour and live performances anywhere near the last 2 were, because he is clearly not going back anywhere near those places ever again unless he is told to. And well, also Drake is clearly not ready to come back to the States yet, because nothing has went well there, and he is never going to try to come to LA at the rate he has pushed things to. And also with Drake's next move, it's not a special event like the Super Bowl because he'll never be as big as that. And well, also, I think it's a prerequisite for the artist who do perform at this to know the lyrics to their songs and not use a teleprompter to feed them when they are at the biggest and most high-stakes 9-minute musical performance you could ever possibly have as an artist. And so understanding that, and without more clown show tours to run away from Kendrick Lamar with, and no actual special things coming up, well, listen, just get back and get ready for this because the Mega Karen levels are off the charts here. And I say that because with what was just announced for the 26th and 27th of, well, the month that I guess is October's very own in October, Drake is throwing back-to-back shows that are going to celebrate his birthday and try to bring together the OVO community all as one right back in his home of the 6 after everything that has went down. And I guess for Drake, when he saw Kendrick Lamar come to his very home city and play in the biggest venue in it in the Rogers Center and fill up the place to max capacity on not one but 2 nights and even within his own city, let's remember that it was the people of the 6 who did chant encore for not just any song on Kendrick's setlist, but Not Like Us of all records. Well, surprisingly for Cupcake, despite seeing over 60,000 people from where he is from choose the rival who has ruined everything for him and who has caused him to really turn into the ultimate Karen over him, I guess when we look at all of this, the pizza party and the anti-Kendrick Lamar gathering circles that were outside of the Rogers Center that day, I guess that inspired Drake, and it did show him that there are fans as lame as him in the 6. Well, this pushed him to finally do a performance within his own city after almost 2 years of Not Like Us and the beef that changed everything going down. But wait. Things get even more pathetic as Drake didn't just up or try to match Kendrick and go to the Rogers Center, but even in his own city, he is still scared of stadiums and he is not even gonna be at the big Rogers Center that Kendrick took over. And instead, he's shrinking that capacity size to about 1/3 and he is gonna be playing where the Toronto Raptors play. And I don't care what you wanna try to argue and put together to try and act like there is another reason that Drake is not doing stadiums once again, but there is no excuses for this. Because really, if we want to break it down, with Drake just deciding to perform at the second biggest venue and not try to match Kendrick at the highest level you can as a performer, or even The Weeknd who did the show in the city as well, what we are seeing symbolically is a man bow down to both Kendrick and The Weeknd and take that silver medal to both of them, because no matter what he does and what he tries to push across, and you know there's going to be subs and you know there's going to be disses when he's on that stage, ultimately to just sit there again and play in the smaller venue while Kendrick now will still continue to hold the record for the biggest shows to ever go down in the 6 from a rapper, and you are not even trying to come close and compete. You know, I guess I'd have to say if we all had competition like Cupcake Drake, it would be pretty easy, because honestly, I have never seen somebody just try to compete with somebody so much, but yet simultaneously give up and concede wherever they possibly can. And I'm really just putting this across because it has to go through every single person in OVO's mind that despite whatever you were trying to do and send with the OVO Cupcake Birthday Bash convention, by announcing this and showing that this is the way you are going to be moving, you've only made things even worse for yourselves. Because really for Drake, what we have found out is that he is so scared of literally anything and any sort of competition with Kendrick Lamar, or even trying to actually find out how many people could fit in a stadium for his show, that deep down inside, he is letting this man walk all over him. But even with that, things are once again getting way worse. Because for Drake, his fear of having people turn on him and not show up to these shows in his own city has made him so desperate that it's not like he is going to be coming out to these things solo or leading the thing as the real headliner and pushing things on. But instead, and honestly, this may even be worse than not deciding to go to a stadium, because really, if we want to break down the choice to go to where the Raptors play compared to where the Blue Jays play, I guess if you wanted to give Drake Drake the benefit of the doubt, you could say that maybe he has a better relationship with the owners of the Raptors, which we know he does have more connections to that organization, and that's why he's going there, and that's why he doesn't want to go for the other guys. And listen, I'm only saying that just to try and give him the benefit of the doubt here for that, because with this next thing, we can't give him the benefit of the doubt at all because it's that pathetic. And so what I am talking about is Drake just using and resorting to his favorite thing in touring, which well is solidified that he is the laziest touring act we have ever seen from an artist of his echelon, maybe of all time. And what I am talking about is the trick and gimmick that Drake has tried to use to distract people, and specifically his own fans, of how bad and boring his live rapping and music really actually is, in one of the most offensive ways when you really understand what's happening. And so what I am talking about is now going down to the fact that in classic Drake fashion, the guy doesn't do solo shows. That's way too much work, and he would never try to compete with Kendrick Lamar going up on stage by himself and doing something like this. And instead, he needs a co-headliner to try and get an A on the group project and do none of that work. And with who Drake is bringing in here, he is doing more than we have ever seen, because for once here, he is not trying to use a rapper who is creating waves that he is riding off, but then again, the rapper kind of benefits from getting Drake's name on it in the first place. So again, if we're playing the gymnastics in Jenga that OVO loves to play, you could kind of try to say that it's mutual, I guess? But here, there's none of that, as he is using an artist and a name who, when it comes to demand and recent touring data from some of the recent shows that he has done, well, this guy is more popular and anybody would book him over Drake. And who I am talking about, well, is none other than Vybz Kartel. And now with this being Vybz' first ever show in Toronto, which is a big milestone, as if you were not tapped in, anytime his name is on a show bill, there are thousands of fans running to these shows. Well, really, what we are going to see from this show is that between Vybz and Drake, Vybz is going to be the one who will make the stat line look like this, and between the demand and dynamic and all of the hype that is actually going into this big event beyond the Little Weird OVO community, Vybz is really putting this thing on his back. Because seriously, when we just look at Drake's recent tours, see how much he has dropped in terms of his value and ticket numbers. Of course, you see that he has canceled shows. You see that the lack of demand from Drake is at a point where nobody wants to really engage with him on the level they once did. And with that, there's no better way to try and cover up the fact that you lost your city than when understanding all of that, using one of the biggest artists you possibly can put on a show bill that still rocks with you, and just use that to push all of the hype you possibly can. And honestly, when you see that Drake is using Vybz to really push this show, but in terms of the narratives and the way that things are going to move, people are probably going to think that it's Drake who is doing the work unless they are tapped into discussions like these. Well, overall, for the Ice Spice Man turned Grift Man, you have managed to do it again. And for all of the OVO cupcake lovers who want to believe that you really are the Iceman and you have this master plan and you are always ahead, well, I guess this is how you keep all of them supporting you, but that's why we are having the discussion we are now, and why it's important that everybody sees the truth. And if you have not already, be sure to leave a like so we can do exactly that. Because again, to try and make your own version of the pop-out but hide behind Vybz Kartel, that would be like if Kendrick Lamar did his pop-out and instead of headlining it himself or having an LA rapper even be there, I don't know, he put somebody like Ed Sheeran as the frontman, and everybody just needs to really see how pathetic Cupcake Karen really is for doing this. And again for Drake, and this is the worst part, while you will make the echo chamber of OVO fans more happy to just believe and stay within their own world of delusion, well again, despite whatever discussions and places are going to try to paint Drake within a positive light that he is really not standing in reality, this is just all a joke. And again for Drake, when you see that Kendrick Lamar is now doing this out in parts of the world that you have never even went to or that you avoid because you were scared you can't even fill up a gym there, what I have to say is that in a weird way, I almost do admire how much of a walking L Drake really is. And the reason why I say that is because despite the fact that he is always trying to catch up and come back to Kendrick Lamar and get whatever points he can to go against him when they are in this beef that he wants to never end, it's almost admirable how consistently he can't even properly plan out how to just outplay him and get up on him in the most simple and basic ways. And when you see that Kendrick has had a head start in literally every single sense of the word, whether that is touring, songs, albums, and whatever else you want to say, that means that you can act against him and you can counter his moves. But again, despite the basic logic of that, which has been comprehensible to pretty much everybody since the origins of competition, you would rather run to arenas with these lame shows instead of stadiums, and you would rather drop bad albums that are doing everything wrong instead of maybe just looking over at your rival and seeing what for him is working right. And listen, if you want to try and make the excuse for the shows about the weather and say that it's Drake's birthday and it's October so it's too cold, listen, the Toronto Blue Jays play there, and if it was playoffs, the World Series could end up being there, so that's a bad excuse, and I don't want to hear that because it's just a bad way to try and dispute and try to play narrative gymnastics all to make Drake look better. So again, when you see that Kendrick Lamar has more power as a performer than we have ever seen from any rapper ever, and Drake is begging Vybz Kartel to help him fill up shows in his own city in venues that are about a third of the size, you know what I'm saying, man. The Ice Spice Man is done, and the cupcakes have been overbaked. And at this point, what I do think we are seeing is that until Kendrick Lamar finishes legs 3 and 4 of the Grand National Tour, I guess, Drake is just gonna never try and stop chasing him in this beef of performing and this game of cat and mouse that they are playing with their shows and tours, because it really does seem like for every show and crowd that Kendrick can play in, Drake is trying to follow and one him up and do the same thing, except just do it so much worse no matter what his intentions are. And really with Drake now once again getting another extension on the all-time run of L's that he has been on to go through October at the very least as well, you have to wonder if he is ever going to give this thing up and if he is going to try something else. But I guess with where we are at now, if it hasn't changed already, I don't think it ever will, and that's not going to happen. And instead, with understanding that and knowing that Kendrick has way more shows coming up, and with what he will probably end up doing next, it's probably going to be even greater than the last show. Well, now I'm just gonna sit and laugh at the cupcake convention that is the next big thing on the OVO planning board, and I will just wait for Kendrick to get back on any turf, which is about to happen very soon today, and just wait to see more performances from Rap's MVP and the leader of the league. And so just remember, when you see one guy's career falling down and the other guy doing this, maybe if Cupcake Drake admitted defeat and moved on, then we would still not be stuck at this very point where he is trying to get back in a head-to-head with the same guy that, if we were keeping count, Kendrick would probably have hundreds and maybe thousands of wins right now, while the Cupcake still has none. Really, with that said, you just have to wonder when one of these losses is going to turn into the one that will make Drake reconsider everything and really think about some of the biggest mistakes he has ever made, and just maybe convince him that it's time to genuinely pack it up. But listen, we know that's not going to be anytime soon, but as we are seeing a rap world that is ever changing and things are really only going up from here, both for better on Kendrick's side, but for worse. Well, if you want to see on the Drake side of things how things are only getting messier, and not just with the Cupcake Karen or whatever he has planned here, but with Drake's little buddies like Young Thug, they have just messed up bad with one of the weirdest albums we have ever seen, and with this project, I'd imagine Kendrick Lamar would never laugh more at a single thing that has happened in rap, maybe aside from the Hard Part 6. Well, you don't want to miss how Drake's best friend just missed their last chance they had to get back on top, so check out the suggested video.